Hello and welcome to a quick demo of the SnapLogic Underwriter's desktop for insurance. This is a next generation underwriting system using SnapLogic and AI. Picture this. We are a company called Vector Property, a leading UK-based insurer specializing in residential property insurance. Vector has its own underwriting system at the moment and some decent data, but Vector can do more. Typically, Vector targets standard construction homes, like detached, semi-detached, terrace houses, flats, you name it, with a focus on mitigating environmental risks such as flood risks and subsidence. The current gap at the moment, though, is that they face a processing bottleneck where manual data gathering from lots of different sources can delay quotes by quite a long time, maybe a matter of hours or perhaps days. Sometimes there is extra data that they need to get that is not available within internal systems, maybe a survey needs to be done, that kind of thing, and it takes some time. This causes delays in writing new business. There's also some revenue leakage. There are other areas where we might want to move into to insure, perhaps listed buildings or slightly more complicated cases. But we don't have the bandwidth, we don't have the data, and we don't have the tools to do this. So a new system should enable us to do this. Overall, the goal is to write more business with the same amount of resources and dominate the residential insurance market. Here's an example of how we can use SnapLogic to automate and improve a lot of these processes. So we can manage the submission intake, automate this, eliminate manual entry. Then we can use AI and agents to help automate the data gathering and data enrichment process. We might pull in some data from various sources, such as the land registry or ordnance survey. Maybe we look at company's house to have a look at ownership data if a company owns it. Maybe we have some PDF reports, maybe we have some images. Taking all of this data, we can then move to the next phase and do an automated policy rules evaluation of all of the information that we have and see what kind of rules the data is meeting. Is it passing our checks internally? Is it meeting the standards that we want to write from a risk perspective? Next, the AI can take all of this data and recommend a decision based on what it's understood and provide this decision to the underwriter for review. Finally, the human can review all of the data and the AI recommendation that it's been given and decide whether or not to write that business. It's taken away a massive chunk of time that it would have taken the human otherwise to review all of this data and decide whether or not to write the business. Now, a quick demo. Here is the SnapLogic Underwriter's desktop. Here's an example homepage, and here we can see our available submissions that have arrived in our system. The top one here we can see a semi-detached house. We also have a flat towards the bottom here and a terrace house at the bottom, and these are all applications that have been processed. We've got one that is pending, however, here, the second one, the Old Rectory in London. This is a higher value property and it's grade 1 listed, and this is an example of where we might have revenue leakage currently, where we might insure this property if we had the tools and the capability and the bandwidth, but at the moment we don't. But now we have the SnapLogic underwriting system, maybe we can try and do this. So let's analyze this one. I can see I have an available document here, and someone has very kindly done a level 3 survey for me, a structural survey of this property. This is going to be included in the application, and I can view it here. It's a PDF, it tells us all about the property from a structural perspective, and gives us more insights that may have taken some time for us to gather otherwise. It tells us about the roof structure, about the wall construction, foundation and subsidence risk, and this is all really useful data, and we can feed this into the AI to help us arrive at a decision quicker. Our analysis is complete, and we can see here we've got a few tabs that refer to the submission. The first one is a quick summary. We can see here it's got the old rectory, the reinstatement value, the current occupancy, and some other details. Next, we can move on to the ownership details. And the AI has flagged that the ownership structure is a little bit more complicated than normal. This property is owned by a group of companies, not just an individual or a couple. This is owned by not just one company, but a group. And the AI has gone away, analyzed this property, and found that it's owned by all of the companies listed here. It's also got the company IDs pulled from Company's House and the Company's House links that we can go to here to have a look at these individual companies. We can also see that this has triggered one of our thresholds, which is to have a maximum of 5 entities owning this property. At the moment we have 70, so it's given us a warning here to check this out. Next we have the policy evaluation. And here we have all of the different rules that we have set up to assess a property against as to whether or not we're going to decide to write this business. And we can see a summary here. We've passed 8 rules, 3 have triggered a referral. And if we have a look at those policy rules here, we can see one that's triggered is a listed status rule, and we know that this property is grade 1 listed. So we can see that this one is something that we should have a look at in a little bit more detail. Other rules, such as the reinstatement value, the occupation, these have passed. We're very happy with those. Other ones that have triggered a referral, for example, are the ownership structure and the failed business association. Now this one is new. We didn't know about this before. So we know the property is owned by a group of entities, and the failed business association is something that might be related to this. So maybe we should look into that a bit further. I'll scroll back up to the top. I'm going to move to the next area. The AI decision is a referral outcome. And down here we can see all of the different reasons why it's come to this conclusion. And we can scroll down and we can see some key findings at the summary level. It's passed an affordability check and a credit risk profile, which is great. Payment history is clean, and some other things here. We have some detailed risk analysis. This is a grade 1 listed building. It's very important for us to review this because it could be much more complicated. But the main thing we want to look at here is the director's failed business history. This was flagged in the other tab earlier, and we can see here that David Thornton, for example, is a 40% shareholder in the group. But he has a failed business association, so we can see here some information about that. It's also flagged the complex group structure, as we said, and some specific property risks. There's also some credit policy rules it's passed and referred, and some next steps for the underwriter to take. So before making the final decision, we should have a look at these things as well. It's given us a decision tree and a summary as well. We could download a report of everything that we've got here in a PDF, so let's do that now. And I can see here an underwriting analysis report of everything that's been contained in this application, which is really useful. If I want to, I could accept this, or I could send it to an underwriter for review. I'm going to do that now. Here we can see the email to the senior underwriter to come in and review. It's given us some high-level information about the property, and we can click on the Open Underwriter Desktop button here for the senior person to go and review. Back to the application. So we know that this is a refer, and we've sent it on to a senior underwriter for review. Finally, we have a chat follow-up. Here we can ask some questions about the application. The AI has gone away and done lots of work for us, and maybe we want to understand a bit more about what's going on. Let's go back to the failed business association of David Thornton, so we can ask who he is. So we can see here that it's given us some information about who David Thornton is. He holds a 40% stake in the Old Rectory Group. His personal record is clean, but he previously directed a company that was liquidated with a large amount of debt. So maybe we want to be aware of this, along with the other owner of the Old Rectory Group, who is James Thornton, the UBO. It gives us some details about how much the total exposure is, their payment history, and more. So here we can use this to understand more about who is involved in this transaction. And that's about it. Thank you for watching, and please get in touch with SnapLogic if you would like to learn more.